The organizers have assured me that you are a remarkable group of young people and that you have very bright futures. Of course, just by being here today, you are making a big statement about the kind of leaders you are. People like you know that you can only find your place in the world if you understand that world. Today's event will help bring you closer to that understanding. Let me start with the obvious. International issues are complicated and challenging. And today, you'll be tackling some of the most complex issues of all. Whether it's climate change, or Syria, or the spread of weapons of mass destruction, there are countless stakeholders' perspectives and interests at play. You know from your preparations for this event that finding solutions and reaching agreement can be a daunting challenge. But that's our job here. We face global challenges that require global solutions. Bilateral or nation-to-nation diplomacy alone cannot address the biggest threats or enable us to seize all the opportunities. Many issues that we face are simply too big for any pair of countries to determine. And as technology brings us closer together and makes the world ever smaller, multilateral diplomacy will become even more vital to addressing shared global challenges. The United Nations is one of the main multilateral institutions that brings countries together to address challenging issues. The U.S. supports the UN because of the great work it does, but also because a strong UN is a strong investment in our own security. A more stable, prosperous, and wealthy and healthy world is good for all of us. Now, I must also say that the UN is not perfect. It has weaknesses and it has had failures. Ultimately, however, sustainable, lasting solutions are ones that the people and nations of the world can agree to, not ones that are imposed from the outside. The UN is a key forum for striking those agreements and for finding those solutions. That's why President Obama launched an era of engagement with the UN and its partners. The President, the Secretary of State, and hopefully all of you understand that we work together with the UN because it's the right thing to do, and also because this partnership can promote our interests and our values. We do this by putting blue helmeted peacekeepers in conflict zones. We do this by feeding tens of millions of people every year through the World Food Program. We do this by supporting the international response to humanitarian crises. We do this by promoting global peace through the UN Security Council. Now, let's take a look at a couple of the issues that you're going to be debating further this afternoon and the impact the United Nations has had on them. First, access to education. In 2000, leaders from around the world gathered in New York for the Millennium Summit. At that summit, they set 8 ambitious goals on human development with a plan on reaching each goal by 2015, next year. One of those Millennium Development Goals was universal primary education worldwide. Since then, we have seen remarkable progress. In 2000, there were 102 million young children not attending school. By 2011, that number had fallen by almost 1/2 to 57 million. In fact, primary education enrollment in developing countries reached 90% in 2010, and literacy rates among children and young people are on the rise. This, of course, does not mean that our work or the work of the UN and its member countries alone is done. The UN also reports that millions of young people still cannot read or write, and that they are disproportionately women and girls. What is clear, though, is that multilateral diplomacy has been and will continue to be critical in achieving universal primary education. We are currently working with our partners in capitals around the world and at the United Nations to update these goals for post-2015. The work will continue and the UN will be central to this effort. Second, let's talk about water. I'm sure everyone here can appreciate the importance of clean drinking water and proper sanitation. The UN reports that 780 million people worldwide still lack access to clean water. That's almost 2.5 times the number of people who live in the United States. More than 6 million people die every year from the consequences of water-related diseases and disasters. That's 10 times the number of people who live in Washington, D.C. Those without safe water and sanitation are likely to be poor, hungry, and malnourished. Women and girls are disproportionately affected by the lack of access to safe drinking water and sanitation. They often spend hours a day collecting water, foregoing other economic and educational opportunities, and sometimes even dropping out of school. This sort of suffering can sow the seeds of conflict and instability. Globally, the increasing scarcity of safe water, combined with rapid population growth and environmental degradation, is also contributing to biodiversity loss and food insecurity. The potential for droughts and famine, and even famine, is rising and crossing borders. 1 in 9 people, spread across every continent, is somehow affected by this issue. So do you think this problem is one that can be solved best through bilateral engagement, or is this challenge better tackled at a global forum? I'm not going to suggest that there's anything easy about multilateral diplomacy. It's hard. It requires creativity and keen negotiating skills. It requires compromise. It requires patience. And it requires listening to ideas you oppose and claims you don't believe. You will experience all of this during this conference, and I salute you for your energy and dedication as you debate this afternoon. But imagine for a moment if we didn't have a United Nations. Who would be able to coordinate the deployment of more than 100,000 peacekeepers from dozens of countries around the world? Who would manage the inspection of nuclear programs abroad to keep them peaceful? Who would coordinate the global response to the current flu crisis or HIV/AIDS? Who would manage the global response to famine or super cyclones or major earthquakes? The United Nations, despite its flaws, remains central to all these endeavors and many more. That's why the United States makes such an important investment in the UN. For less than $7 billion, roughly what Americans spend each year in ATM fees, we provide almost a quarter of the support for the United Nations and its network of partners. That investment gives America and our friends and allies a huge return in terms of peace, prosperity, and stability. Before I finish, I want to congratulate you one more time. Your participation in the Model UN program is impressive and a clear demonstration of your commitment to thinking big and challenging yourselves. There's a world of possibility out there, and I encourage you to start reaching out to that world now. Study a foreign language if you aren't already. Continue pursuing your interest in current events. Learn something about a country or a people unfamiliar to you. I'm so pleased that you're all here today, and I hope that you'll carry away positive memories of your time at this conference and at the State Department, and that you'll give serious consideration to returning one day as a member of our team. The department is always looking for bright, energetic people to join the State Department family. I hope you have had a chance to visit, or you will have a chance to visit our career table and talk to some of the department employees who are volunteering and a part of this conference today. So with that, I applaud you once again. I wish you all the best of luck this afternoon. I think we have time to answer a couple questions if folks have them. And then we're going to turn it over to our Secretary General.